another U-turn this morning. Forget the October the 31st budget statement. Our breaking news is the Chancellor is going to make an emergency economic statement today, probably this afternoon. But it could be too late for the Prime Minister, as rebels in her own party reportedly plot to remove her from power.
The first major crack in her support appeared yesterday when the MP, Crispin Blunt, publicly called for Liz Truss to go. That was on Andrew Neal's show. I'm going to speak to Andrew in just a moment. First, here's what happened.
Can Liz Truss survive?
No, I think the game's up. And it's now a question as to how the succession is managed.
How could that succession be managed? I mean, let me put it bluntly to begin with. How would you get rid of her?
If there is such a weight of opinion in the parliamentary party that we have to have a change, then it will be affected. Exactly how it's done and exactly under what mechanism, but it will happen.
Andrew Neal joins us now.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi.
When a MP of the status of Crispin Blunt says it's time for her to go, and you're doing the interview, does a moment happen inside when you think, right, OK, someone's actually got the ball rolling now?
Yeah, because no one had until then. I mean, they're all saying it privately to people like you and me, but they haven't been saying it publicly. He set the ball rolling, and I suspect a lot more will now come out. It's clear to me that a majority of Tory MPs want rid of her, and the only question is how do they do it? Because under the existing rules, the way they got rid of Boris Johnson, they can't use these rules again.
No.
But unlike the Labour Party, which has got sort of very codified, rigid rules, the Tories basically just make it up as they go along. So they'll find a way to get rid of her. And it's weeks, in my view, rather than months.
Well, I was going to say, based on your extraordinary experience, I mean, we've never seen anything like this before, have we? This is unprecedented.
No.
Do you think there's any way she can survive, given that she sacked her Chancellor for agreeing with her and has appointed a Chancellor to dismantle everything that she stands for?
Well, there is no purpose to her.
No.
And I don't think she can survive. I mean, what is the point of having a Prime Minister who's actually not the Prime Minister? I mean, Jeremy Hunt is the de facto Prime Minister at the moment. And everything that she never had a mandate from the British people, because we didn't get a vote. But she's now not got a mandate from the Conservative Party that elected her, because everything she got elected on, she's now doing the opposite. And it's not now a case of just going back to the status quo ante, going back to the way it was before, because something very important has changed, which is that what would have been acceptable to the markets in the summer of this country's fiscal position isn't anymore. The bar is now much higher. The currency markets and the government debt markets are going to demand much tougher fiscal discipline than they would have done only in August because of the mess.
Can you explain what that means?
Well, what it means is that the markets will, which is why this statement's been brought forward, because the markets are still very nervous. What it means is that the currency markets, people who buy sterling, and the debt markets, people who buy our assets, buy our debt. A lot of them are foreign. They don't have to buy our debt. It's not like the pound is the dollar. Everybody has to have dollars. No one has to have pounds. We'll need to convince them as a nation that our finances are very sound, that we can cover spending with tax revenues, and that what we do have to borrow will be modest and sensible and doable. That's a much higher bar now than only a couple of weeks ago.
Can I ask, earlier we spoke to Sir Christopher Chope. Now, he accused us of, well, apart from accused us of talking over him, but also prejudice. And I wondered, that's also a word that's come out of Downing Street, that this is a vendetta by public schoolboys against Liz Truss because she's a woman.
Yeah, like the Tories have never had a woman leader before, so obviously that's the case.
And the markets must clearly be prepared.
Yeah, they're all run by public schoolboys, especially in New York. I mean, this is a sign of people just chasing their own tails now. They don't know what to say. They've got nothing defensible to say. And this is smoke and mirrors to hide the fact that forget all the politics of the situation, something very important is now happening because of this U-turn. The Bank of England is raising interest rates. The Bank of England is tightening money. The government is about to raise taxes again, and it's about to cut spending. The global economy is already in a major downturn. I'm afraid to say we are heading for a serious recession this winter.
Isn't the other problem, quite separately from the fact that all her policies have exploded in her face, we can't trust anything that she says. And not because she's telling fibs. I mean, this isn't a Boris Johnson analogy. But everything that she said she absolutely wouldn't change her mind on, within 12 to 24 hours, she absolutely changed her mind. We just don't know what to believe anymore with her.
And credibility is everything. And credibility in the markets is everything. Now, this country has always managed to punch above its weight because our institutions, the Treasury, the Bank of England, even the relatively new Office for Budget Responsibility, they all had international credibility. People put great store by them, these international investors in our country. And above all, that you could trust the word of the Prime Minister. Well, you can't now. And credibility can't be restored as long as you can't trust what's coming out of number 10.
I think she's destroyed the Conservative Party. It had the reputation for at least being fiscally responsible. Whatever you thought of their policies, they would look after the economy.
There's a lot of destruction in the Conservative Party. It is the most successful political party in the history of democracy. It's more often government than not. It's remarkable if you look back how little Labour's actually in power compared to the Conservatives. Yeah. But she has certainly undermined what they thought were their unique selling point.
Yes.
That you may not like us, we may be a bit hard-hearted, we're all a bit posh or whatever.
Look after the money.
But we know how to look after your money. And she, at a stroke, has destroyed that because she, first of all, on economic matters or in government in general, she's out of her depth. That's been the problem from the start. She's out of her depth.
You predicted this, didn't you? You said that. You said that she didn't know what she was doing.
And when it comes to economic matters, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
The Economist said she has a shelf life of a lettuce. The Daily Star has set up a camera on a lettuce. Apparently, they have given it some iron brew this morning and some...
Made from girders.
And some tablets to perk it up. And we'll see whether the Prime Minister lasts longer than the lettuce. But this is just humiliation on a national... The Washington Post has a headline saying, why is Britain's Prime Minister being compared to a lettuce?
And Joe Biden's making commentary on our economic policy, and he's not sure what his own economic policy is. So that's how really bad it is.
That was an extraordinary comment you made, wasn't it, yesterday?
I can't really cope with the depth of that kind of economic and political analysis.
Listen, the lettuce, the iron brew and the Pro Plus.
No. A small straw in the wind. This is on PA, Press Association today. In a further sign of the turmoil in the government, Work and Pension Secretary Chloe Smith, who was due to do the normal morning round of broadcasts, you know, that we all do. We do ours at about 8:30. She's pulled.
But why would you? If you're a government minister, why would you go on? Because we've seen again and again you go on to defend the indefensible. And one minister said to me, while he was on air, the policy changed. So why would you go on and defend the indefensible? You come off here and you talk, actually, that's not the policy anymore. Thanks a lot.
Last Thursday, I was talking to the Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly. Are you going to stick with the plan not to increase corporation tax, yes or no? Look, the point we're making, he says, is we have a 70-year tax burden. And when you have that, putting taxes up further is not going to help stimulate economic growth. And the Prime Minister has been absolutely clear, the Chancellor has been absolutely clear, they're looking to stimulate economic growth. Then she junked her Chancellor and junked the policy.
And Kwasi Kwarteng, I'm not going anywhere.
Absolutely.
45p, are you going to stick with it? Yes.
Truth has a shelf life of about 10 minutes these days.
So Christopher Chope also said to us that he felt, and her defenders have been repeating this over and over, she deserves a chance, give her a chance. But she had a chance on Friday at the press conference, didn't she? Have you ever seen a more inept
press conference I've ever seen.
Yeah, me too.
They couldn't even give her a list of the journalists she could go to ask questions. I mean, it's not only that she's in real trouble, the team around her are useless.
So, crystal ball time. If Jeremy Hunt is, as I totally agree with you, is de facto Prime Minister at the moment...
He's unsackable.
Right. Who'll be the real Prime Minister when she goes?
That I don't know.
No?
Because you set this ball rolling, and I'm sure the ball is going to roll, and that they're going to move to get rid of her. Where that ball ends up is very unpredictable. I mean, for the markets, Rishi Sunak is the natural choice. I mean, sterling would rise on his appointment.
They'd love it, wouldn't they?
And the debt markets would love it too. We'd be able to get our debt away much more cheaply. But Boris Johnson's people have never forgiven him for resigning. And obviously Liz Truss's people are no big fans either. So that's the logical choice if you look at the Conservative Party from the outside in. But the logical choice is not always the one that that they end up with, I'm afraid.
Good to see you this morning, Andrew.
Great
Neal,
to be
thank
here.
you very
Thanks for
much
coming in.
indeed.
Thanks for the time, too.
We hear that Jeremy Hunt's statement is going to be at 11 o'clock this morning.
He's had to bring it forward because the markets need more reassurance.